With star wide receivers, a nice running back, a tight end room that's solid, a secondary that some contending teams might even wish to have, the Bears were supposed to plug in Caleb Williams and contend, but one of the biggest current issues in the NFL is trusting your rookie quarterback to quickly turn a team around. But what's wrong with this broken team that's riding one of the worst losing streaks in the NFL right now? And I was watching them on the Thanksgiving game against the Lions, and you can just tell that there's some stuff wrong with like how the offense is being ran, especially with that end of the game play. But and Eberflus just fired because of how terrible he's been as a coach. And the Bears had a 14-29 record. They've been averaging like 8 yards a game, not 8 yards a game. But they've been like pretty in the middle of the pack in points per game. And it isn't 8 of that either. But the Eberflus era in Chicago was pretty depressing throughout his entire tenure through the past 2.5 years. And just what really has gone wrong with the offense. Obviously, you can't plug in a rookie quarterback. But now talking about that rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams, he hasn't been a top 3 rookie quarterback this season, but I feel like he's gotten a little more hate than he should be. Obviously, he was the first overall pick. He was supposed to be the best quarterback, but even at the pre-draft, him being generational was based off of his sophomore season and not his most recent one. If Williams had like a good sophomore season, but just not as good as it really was, Jaden Daniels probably would have gone first in this draft. But obviously, looking back at it, Caleb Williams wasn't a terrible pick, and it did make sense. But he's kind of done, like, he hasn't shown regression in traits he was good at. In college, he was really a great playmaker. He was doing a lot of good when it came to that, to extending plays and making broken plays worse, or making them work, not worse, kind of like what you just saw in that highlight there. So that part of his game hasn't regressed since college. He's been doing that just fine still. And that was what he was known to do. That's what his best asset was. But his O-line has been pretty mediocre for the most part. It hasn't been top 10. I wouldn't really say it's been bottom 10 either, though. But Caleb Williams, I feel like once he hits his peak in 2, 3, 4 years, but once he gets to his prime, I feel like whatever team he's on, most likely the Bears, for the Bears' sake, hopefully the Bears. But I'm not saying they need to purposely have a bad O-line, but I feel like he's a quarterback that once he develops a little more, he could be able to play because of his play style with a O-line that's outside of the top 10. Obviously, right now he's still a rookie. I think he'd benefit heavily from having a good O-line. But moving on to one of the other issues, it's been the play calling and even play design. I saw one play that was really bad. Maybe not the call, but just the design of it. Obviously, they fired their OC earlier this season, but whoever the analysis was for the game, it shows where there's basically like a little drag route that runs right into a hitch route, where it just puts 2 of the receivers in the same spot. And Caleb Williams made the right read based on how the play is drawn up, but it just was a bad play. And I feel like that's something that's been holding him back this year. I'm not a huge Caleb Williams fan, but just having this rough, consistency when it comes to the offensive coordinator, when it comes to the head coach, their head coach obviously hasn't been great. There's a reason he got fired. But I feel like Caleb Williams hasn't been as bad as a lot of people think. I feel like a lot of it stems down to the issues with the Bears. Obviously, it feels a little bit, no. We're going to pretend this was all one take and that BetGM didn't come up. But like I was saying, I think the Bears, a lot of it's been coming down to the team as a whole and not all on Caleb Williams. Obviously, I feel like we all had higher expectations for him, but something that I feel like a lot of people forgot about him is because he was being labeled as generational, is that he's still a rookie. He's not, he's not already Russell Wilson, right? Like he still needs to develop. He's still going to need time to get better. And it kind of feels like DJ Moore at times has checked out. Like we saw the middle of that one play. I really like DJ Moore. So I'm not going to try to speak on what his mindset is, because I feel like that's kind of, I don't like when sports people do that, when they try to speak on someone's behalf. But it feels like the team around him hasn't been that great either, right? Obviously, I already touched on the O-line and the receivers, having DJ Moore, having Rome Odunze, which we have to remember about him is he's also a rookie. Obviously, he was one of the better rookies in his class. There's a reason he was the third receiver off the board, but he's still a rookie nonetheless. And that's something that I think a lot of us need to remember about him. And their wide receiver 3. And Keenan Allen is obviously past his prime. There's a reason the Chargers, who already don't have a great receiving core, decided to move on from him. And, I mean, Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett isn't really that bad of a tight end core. I'm not going to act like I know what's been going up with them. Maybe they've been better, and it's just been the rest of the team. But obviously, you want more out of Caleb Williams. But this Bears team just feels so dysfunctional right now. It feels like, they're losing in a lot of bad ways. Like, they probably could be 7-4 right now. 7-5 maybe after the Lions game, because that field goal at the end could have tied the game, but we don't know what could have happened past that. But there's just been a couple bad things at the end. It feels like maybe they haven't been this bad of a team. I think a lot of it has fallen under head coaching, and I think that was the root problem for the Bears. Obviously, the rest of their schedule is a bit rough. They have games against the Niners. They're going to play the Lions again. They play the Vikings too. And even the Seahawks, which will probably be a pretty competitive game between the two teams. But I think as long as the Bears can plug in the right head coach, I think that they're destined to be a solid team. No, Adidas. But with all that said, obviously the Bears, they'll have an interim head coach. I think it's already been said. I don't really remember. But I think next season, as long as the Bears can bring in the right head coach, I honestly feel like Mike Vrabel, I know he's another... I know I don't really think of Mike Vrabel as a completely defensive-minded coach. I feel like he's a lot more balanced when it comes to that. Like, kind of like, I feel like Bill Belichick is a little more defensive than even Mike Vrabel is. I always think of him as like kind of more in the middle of defense and offense. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like he could be a very good coach for the Bears to bring in. Obviously, I know a lot of people want them to go for like a offensive-minded coach, like a super offensive-minded coach. But I feel like Mike Vrabel would be almost the perfect coach to get this team right. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I went with a little more free talk in the video instead of going off a script. But I hope you guys enjoyed this and have a good day.